With a brand new Donkey Kong game, of course comes brand new boss battles, and Donkey Kong Bananza has about 20 bosses that I have for you in today's list, where I'll be ranking them from worst to best. Some boss battles have duplicates, and most of them I have decided to give them their own separate entry on this list because sometimes they're slightly different or could be way better in their second versions. But hey, if you love this video and you love Donkey Kong Bananza, feel free to leave a like and subscribe. We're still on our goal to 400,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and you can make that happen by just leaving a like and subscribing. So let's see how many Kong enthusiasts we can get to subscribe in today's video. If you love Donkey Kong Bananza, leave a like and subscribe. But now it's time to rank all 20 bosses in Donkey Kong Bananza from worst to best. Coming in at number 20 and starting my list as the worst boss in a game, we have Poppy Kong 2. Both fights against her are incredibly boring and lame, but it's the second time that just gets so incredibly frustrating, it's just not fun at all. So your goal is to chase after her and hit her, but this time around, not only is she invisible, but she can dash very fast, and you can see where she's going by the trails in the sand that she leaves. Now for the first minute or so, for some reason I thought I was supposed to chase her down as the Zebra Bananza, but of course I was supposed to use the snake one, the one I literally got in the same world. But once I figured that out, I used it but realized I was out of banana energy. And that's the problem with this boss fight, is if you don't have Bananza energy, you can't actually deal damage unless you freeze time with the snake Bananza, which means you have to constantly wait for the game to throw more sand at you, and every time you take out piles of sand, it barely gives you enough gold. I literally ran around for almost like 3 to 4 minutes just looking for gold before I could even attack her. It was just extremely boring, and once you have the Bananza energy filled up, all you have to do is slow down time with the snake over and over again until you hit her and she's dead. It's just pretty pathetic, honestly. So you do this about 3 or 4 times and the battle is over. That's literally about it. And for number 19, of course, we gotta go to the first fight with Poppy Kong, because this one isn't broken, it's just incredibly simple. All she does is turn invisible and slowly dash across the stage, and you can even see her through her invisibility sometimes. This makes this battle an absolute cakewalk. It doesn't help also that the entire stage is just full of leaves or some type of petals where you can clearly see her dashing through them. I was very surprised that they didn't utilize the Zebra Bananza that you get slightly before this. Thankfully they do in the final boss of this area, but man, this boss battle was so incredibly lame. Poppy Kong just was not getting it done in this game. Coming in at number 18, we have Pika Bruiser, which looks like he's pulled straight out of a Splatoon game. Like, he literally looks like the Octo Stomp, and even works the same way, kind of. This time you actually have to break the thing completely apart instead of climbing to the top like you do in the Splatoon series, but that's really about it. Especially if you just use the Kong Bananza, you can just chase it around the stage punching, you know, willy-nilly. Then nothing's gonna hit you really, and nothing's gonna really stop you either. For the last stage of the fight, he'll move to the center of the arena and cause a giant sand hill to form where he'll stand at the top and call for backup. That's when you just climb up and just punch him until his health bar is depleted. It's a pretty basic and simple first boss that you'll beat in a matter of like 30 seconds. Now you might be wondering, why am I talking about the Great Harmon? Well, I decided to rank it as a boss battle because it felt like a mini one in this game. You have to rescue Pauline as Odd Rock once again, but this time she's taped to the center of 4 weird rock creatures as you're falling down the esophagus of the Harmon. Your job is to fall down and smash these boulders that are spit up at you in order to smash the faces of these creatures. It's not extremely tough, but it is pretty fun and unique. This time you're falling as you're fighting a boss and you have to shoot the rocks in their respective directions. The only problem with this is it is just extremely easy and quick. All you have to do is aim in the direction that you want, and you have to hit each face twice in order to completely shatter it. It's something that's different for the game, and I thought it'd be unique to put on this list as an actual boss battle, because it felt like one, even though it wasn't technically counted like one in-game. Coming in at number 16, we have Pika Bruiser, which is the second time you fight this boss. It's pretty much as simple as it was the first time. This time you'll be punching him a lot more, and definitely need to be using your Kong Bananza in order to break through that metal material. But yeah, it's the same concept and premise. You're chasing him around the stage and punching holes in him as you're chasing him down. Also, there's now these blue holes that are scattered across the ground, which will actually drop you into a pit and make you take damage if you fall within them. Towards the end of the boss fight, once again, he'll spawn his little hill that he'll hide and call for backup on, and he'll actually turn into a miniature cube if given enough time, where you have to go back and punch him again as he's very quickly running around the stage as a small version. Now, I'm pretty sure this can all just be avoided if you just rush to the mountain and start punching him right away, but still, it was a nice little twist boss, and it's probably the same thing on the first boss. I just never allowed that to happen. But overall, very simplistic boss, just done again. The first Grumpy Kong fight is honestly probably the fastest boss fight in the entire game, which you might think it'd be even lower than this, but still, I think it's kind of unique because you have to break apart each little section. It's just not that difficult. You can absolutely obliterate the first section and just turn into Kong Bananza and obliterate the second section as well before scaling up the giant beast and punching Grumpy Kong himself. Now it does make me wonder, is this actually also a Kremling? Because we found out at the very end that most of the fossil enemies are just Kremling members. So I was actually surprised to see it wasn't somebody like Clubba from Donkey Kong Country 2. But yeah, you don't even really fight the fossil underneath. Instead, you just climb up to the top to punch Grumpy. At least he has a pickaxe attack that you have to jump over, but besides that, it's a pretty breeze of a boss. Stomping Clumper is another boss that's just about freely punching into your heart's content. And that's exactly what you're going to do, at least to his feet, in order to knock him down. Now, I haven't even tried climbing on top of his face and just punching through that without even touching his feet. I wonder if that's even possible. It might be. But yeah, you punch his feet to break the rocks in order to knock him down, and then you just punch through his head to hit the weak point. You do this over and over again, and you're done. At least he somewhat has a unique premise. Instead of just punching the giant base of him, you actually have to aim for the feet and watch out for his stomp attacks. But I guess it's a little satisfying breaking through the head at the very end to find the core of the machine. And for the second phase, you'll have to use the stage's ground material in order to break through the metal, or simply use the Kong Bananza in order to break through. So not a terrible boss, but once again, still a boss that's not among one of the greats in this game at all. Number 13, we have probably one of the weirdest names for a boss ever, Abra Kajabaya. Yeah, I don't know what they were going for here. Maybe there's some reference that I'm missing. But anyways, it's this giant plant we're just going to call Abra. And yeah, he's very, very disappointing to me. Now, the reason why he's not at the bottom is because the premise is great. I love what the idea is here. It shoots out a long vine that you have to climb all the way up in order to get past all of its red spiky roots, using materials to break through and get to the top of its head in order to attack the head. Now, this sounds cool, but for phases 2 and 3, all you have to do is just fly with the ostrich, and you can literally fly all the way there without even having to take the vine at all. You can skip 90% of what this boss battle wants you to do, which just makes this incredibly lame. You can beat this boss in a matter of like 30 to 40 seconds once again, and like I said, it's a great premise that they just made a little too easy. You can also find refills for your Bananza energy like all around the stage, and you can just hit these vents in order to fly straight to them. There's literally no reason to even climb up any of these vines, so it takes out a major part of this entire boss battle. The ostrich Bananza just kind of breaks it, and I think that's the problem with a lot of these bosses, is the Bananza transformations makes them way too easy. Number 12, we have Mad Mixer. This is where we start to see some more uniqueness with the boss battles. Mad Mixer actually puts you on a minecart roller coaster ride around it, all Mario Sunshine like. You have to grab boom rocks and pretty much chuck them at him. Now, it makes it look like you have to aim and be careful with them because there's giant walls that are built out around him, but you literally can just spam blast him with them. And even when the walls get bigger and wider and they even start rotating around him, it's pretty much the same thing. Now, it is still really cool looking, and jumping over the lasers feels a lot of fun, but it's just so incredibly easy. With only one minecart lap around this boss battle, you'll probably be able to beat it within that time, just by spamming rocks towards the middle of the stage. Like I said, you blast right through those walls, so it's not like the rocks are stopping you in any case, so all you have to do is spam your rock throw and watch out for the lasers as well. And of course, at number 11, we have Mad Mixer Remix, which is the second time you'll fight this boss, but this time in a little bit cooler of a setting. You'll be in the Feast Layer, which is a giant amusement park, and you'll be fighting him above a giant boiling grease pot, which is hilarious. But this time you'll have boom rocks and also salt rocks. You'll have to use the salt rocks in order to melt down the walls around him, and then the boom rocks in order to hit the actual boss in the center. Now, I'm pretty sure that you can damage the boss with both of these rocks, so it doesn't really matter, but I think you actually do have to use the salt rocks in order to melt the walls. The boom rocks won't work quite as well, so it actually has to make you look at what you have in your hand at what time and throw the right items, so it's a little bit more intense, but just like its predecessor, it's still incredibly easy. Coming in at number 10, we have K Stomping Clumper, which is the same boss, but this time it's ran by King K Rool, and it's a tad bit different. I mean, at the end of the day, it's the same premise. It has giant feet that you must break, and you have to, of course, break the head in order to get to the core. But this time, his feet leaves pile of molten lava, so you have to be actually really careful before you punch them. the first boss almost giving you some sort of caution to look out for. Now, it's not incredibly difficult because the lava does go away after a little bit, or you can pick up pieces of the terrain and chuck it at his foot, or something that I did was turn into the elephant Bananza and just sucked up all the material from his feet in order to flip him over, which makes this boss an absolute breeze. But still, it's a little bit more unique this time, at least giving you something to watch out for, and he stomps a lot quicker now. In between hits, you're going to have to hurry up, punch him, run out the way, hurry up, punch him, run out the way, which I thought was pretty cool. But overall, K Stomping Clumper is pretty much the same thing as the first one, it's just a tad bit more intense this time. Coming in at number 9, we have Sinister Blusterwing, which was actually a really cool concept for a boss battle. Once again, I think this was a big missed opportunity by not allowing, the boss to be kind of a giant necky like the boss battles from Donkey Kong Country. That would have made a lot of sense as the fossil that's underneath. Instead, it's this giant gem bird, which I literally haven't seen again so far. But yeah, you pretty much throw rocks at its wings in order to knock him down and then punch the core inside of its mouth. Now, the second phase is where it gets crazier because you won't fight him again until the very end as he'll fly away. So it's kind of like a mini boss and then to the final boss. But there's only 2 phases, so when you find him the second time, hours later into that same sub-level, you don't really get much to fight here. It's literally one phase. This time you'll use the elephant Bananza to grab particles in the tornado that's flying on the outside of the ring in order to pick up rocks and throw them at his wings this time around. So yeah, once again, it's a really cool premise. It's just so quick and literally over before you even know it. You'll knock it down to the ground for a final part where you'll have to slam down into its mouth. Now, I'm not sure if you even need to transform into a Bananza transformation. I did realize that it filled my gauge, so maybe we did. So I turned in either the elephant or the Kong Bananza and it seemed to work. So I don't know if anybody's ever tested it out by not transforming, if it would still work. But yeah, you just punch down and you hold the punch button in order to punch through them. It's a pretty cool looking scene, but overall, not super crazy of a boss battle. I wish the concept was explored a lot more with this one. Coming in at number 8, we have King K Rool number 2. Now, is this one a little higher than it should be? Maybe, but it's King K Rool. Can you blame me? The second encounter with him, you'll actually be flying out of the tunnel in order to reach the surface world. King K Rool will fly after you using his propeller pack from DKC3, and it's your job to pick up pieces of gold banana terrain in order to chuck it at him, knocking him back into the surrounding terrain. He will use Void's banana remote to constantly remove terrain in order to try to get you to fall down, and also dashing at you with his propeller pack over and over again. It's a pretty satisfying boss battle as you hear his boss battle theme remixed from Donkey Kong Country 1, and I love the ending as he charges up one last dash attack. I almost messed up here for some reason. My terrain was hitting the platform that I was on, and you hit him one last time to end the fight. You can always see how long the boss battle is going to last as well, as you can see how high you're moving up, so I'm pretty sure you can just make it all the way to the end, only hitting him one time and just dodging the rest of the times until you reach the surface. But still, I thought it was a pretty cool and unique boss battle. If you ever wanted to feel completely disgusted and also completely claustrophobic, this is the boss battle for you. Mucky Muk is an interesting one. So you have to let him actually melt the metal of the actual stage with like molten cheese, and I'm not joking, I believe it's molten cheese because it's underneath the carnival area and like the beginning was molten cheese, so it might be, who knows? Or maybe it's like boiling hot oil or something from the deep fryer. Whatever it is, he's chugging it at you. You have to let it melt the metal on the ground in order to reach the piles of salt underneath. You then can use the elephant Bananza in order to suck up the salt, pick them up as rocks, and chuck them at him. Now, this is a pretty cool little unique concept of actually melting the boss down instead of just punching him 3 times, and I actually kind of like this as he jumped around the stage. But he leaves lots of little goo monsters behind as well, and the third phase is freaking insane. It almost breaks the game how much goop and chaos is on the screen at once. There'll be holes all over the floor, there'll be creatures moving everywhere, shooting things at you, and just acid just everywhere you look. It's also really gross to be hearing this sound effect throughout the boss battle all the time. Coming in at number 6, we have Grumpy Kong 2. This time, this extremely basic boss battle is actually bumped up to be something relatively unique, and all they had to do was just add this one mechanic, and it became one of my favorite bosses in the game. Your job is to use the Snake Bananza in order to have the light shine down and reflect off of the material all over its body in order to allow you to punch through it, but you have to get it in the light, so you can either use Boom Rock in order to blow it up and push it towards the light, or you can just break all the lights in the ceiling using the Snake Bananza. But either way, I thought this was actually a really cool, unique way to fight him. And Grumpy Kong puts up a new sort of fight. It's almost like the Bowser boss fight in Super Mario Odyssey where he swings his tail at you multiple times. It's kind of what he does here, and it caught me off guard twice, and I actually really liked it. Pretty unique, and I had a really fun time battling him this second time compared to the first outing. Inflammite is a very early boss battle in the game, but I could not believe how much fun and how unique it was, and it makes me mad that not too many bosses in this entire game did what this one was able to do. It had multiple phases that actually required you to think outside the box. You could throw rocks at it in order to stop its lava phase, or you just had to wait for it to slam into a wall and run out of the way as the Zebra Bananza. A bunch of snow and ice will then fall from the ceiling and cover its body entirely. You then have to break it free in order to reveal a snail snow version. It's so cool. It's like a fire and ice boss. The snail version will create an ice path trying to escape. That's when you have to use the Zebra Bananza once again in order to run on the path before it breaks underneath your feet and punching him out of the air. It is extremely satisfying and actually an extremely unique boss battle in this game. It was just such a disappointment to see that the bosses from here kind of went downhill even more, but goodness gracious, this is the level of quality I was expecting from almost every boss that came after this. Coming in at number 4, we have the first battle against King K Rool. There's nothing inherently wrong about this one, but it's also not my favorite in the entire game. So to take out King K Rool, it's pretty simple. He shoots this giant large cannonball at you, and it's your job to punch it right back at him. And for the most part, that's the only way that you're going to be able to attack. You can slowly punch his stomach or hit him with debris such as the elephant's debris after you suck it up, but still, it doesn't really do a lot of damage, and most of your damage is going to come from returning his giant cannonballs from his new giant blunderbuss. But yeah, just being the only way to attack him is with the cannonball to do significant damage did kind of make this boss feel a little average, but still it was really cool to see King K Rool back and have a great fight with him. Not to mention, it did use a lot of the different Bananza transformations such as the snake to jump over this giant vortex that he shoots at you. You can also throw a rock in there in order to clog up his gun, which also does a little bit damage, but it really doesn't do a whole lot in the grand scheme of things. So K Rool was a really good fight, and I think the highlight was all his varied attacks, but not as much as you attacking him. I feel like that was kind of average. Coming in at number 3, we have our first fight with Void Kong. I did not expect this to be this high on this list. Void Kong is actually extremely fun. It's a pretty simple concept. You chase him down and you punch him a couple times, but it's not like 3 phases. There's multiple different phases, and you have to chase him down through multiple different layers in order to attack him, which might drag out, of course, just that long travel in between each layer. I completely get that. But at the end of the day, the boss battle is kind of worth it, because even though you're chasing down one little monkey on like this hovering banana craft, it's really fun and chaotic. He causes tons of crazy things to happen around you, like platforms coming out of the ground, falling from the sky, fire, lava, poison, mud forming on the ground. It felt like a challenge room almost, but with a boss fight included. It was like a big obstacle course that Void Kong put you in. And I'm telling you, this stuff is actually pretty difficult. This was like the middle of the game, and I'm telling you, this is one of the hardest bosses that I fought in my entire playthrough. Even harder than King K Rool. And it felt like you had to get like 9 total hits on him before the final phase, where he would spawn some of his machines, where you had to actually break them down before you could attack him in the middle. This was really cool because each machine was covered by like this layer of rock that was in a ring that would go on the outside, and you had to break through it in order to get to the center, and he would do the same to protect himself at the very end. It just really showed the power of the Switch 2 struggling. I mean, like, look at how bad it messes with the frame rate. I think that's the only bad problem with this boss battle, is with everything going on the stage at once, it causes the frame rate to take a heavy dip, and sometimes I felt like it was below 30. It would almost like freeze. There was so much going on. But even with that said, this boss battle is a spectacle, and it's a lot of fun, and it just is like the chaotic nature of Void Kong, and it instantly became one of my favorites in the entire game. And of course, what could be better than that? Well, Void Kong number 2. I don't think it's as long as the first fight, because you're all fighting in this one area. Like, it's not actually taking place on different sublevels this time, not dragging the battle out longer than it needs to be. But the area that it takes place in at first is actually a really unique area towards the end of the game, where if you throw a rock in this kind of prism area, it causes these giant paths to form, and you have to pretty much throw rocks in order to form paths over to Void Kong. And if you're good enough, you can actually hit him with your path that you throw, which is so freaking cool. He then causes his machines to appear once again and cause them to fill the entire stage, and once again those giant rings appear. But some of them are now made out of lava or really thick ice, and you need him to actually destroy them before you can even get inside. And when I say say this is an absolutely hectic boss battle, I truly mean it. I mean, just literally look at what's going on the screen right now. At every corner and every turn, there's an enemy or some type of projectile or lava in your way, to the point where it feels sometimes overwhelming. But somehow, in a good way, I actually found this to be really fun. And once again, a very difficult boss battle, because at the very end, in order to reach Void Kong, there's multiple instances where you might even need to use your surf in order to ride over the lava and reach him. Not to mention, I like how it uses plot reasons here why you can't use your Bananza transformations, because if Pauline sings, it will awaken the Banandium root for Void Kong, and we have to prevent that. So you have to use just basic Donkey Kong movesets, which I actually found to be very interesting. You couldn't really cheese it or use some powerful Kong Bananza or something, or even the ostrich where you could just fly over everything, or the snake and jump over everything, or even the elephant and just suck up everything. So they really thought ahead on this one, and I thought this was definitely one of the best boss battles in the game, and almost my number one. Because my number one goes to King K Rool, and not just any, but the final version, being his Bananza transformation of K Rool, King of Rot. This boss battle is pretty much the same thing as the first time you fight him. He'll use his handy dandy blunderbuss to shoot his giant cannonballs at you, and you just have to punch them back at him. But I like how now the cannonballs will move in different ways that references the same way in Donkey Kong Country 2. Sometimes they'll bounce up and down, and you might have to jump and punch one or time it down when it hits the ground, and sometimes they'll spin in these weird irregular patterns, very similar to that game. It's a great callback. Not to mention, the entire boss theme is a remix of that boss theme from Donkey Kong Country 2, which is just perfect. Once again, you'll be using pretty much every single one of your Bananza transformations outside of like the ostrich. You could still use the ostrich if you absolutely need to, but it's definitely not required, and if you want to fly over the suction area, you could do that. One of my favorite parts of this version is once you hit the giant cannonball back, it'll actually cause a giant alleyway to form of gold, and it will place King K Rool on like a throne of golden bananas that he's stuck in, and you have to actually race all the way down the lane in order to punch and beat him up at the very end of it, which is such a great touch. You can turn into the zebra transformation and rush towards him, and he'll like throw all these like gold walls at you as you're trying to run at him. It's just an awesome touch of this boss battle. Overall, I was very impressed with how this boss actually finished out to be. Of course, I still probably would have done a little bit more with the building and the breaking thing, like maybe having a giant K Rool made out of material that you had to break through and reach into the center or something. But still, this was a really good boss battle. But let me know in the comments down below what your favorite and your least favorite boss battles from Donkey Kong Bananza were. Is K Rool your favorite, or did you have another? Also, make sure you leave a like and subscribe to stay up to date on all things Donkey Kong Bananza and Nintendo in general. And like always, I'll see you all on the next one, and I hope you all have a blessed day. See you guys.